kids. So
Yeah.
I was
We're live, actually. Oh gosh, and we've got people joining. Fantastic. Oh, yay. This is fantastic.
Hi.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome, welcome. This is
I'm
so
so
great.
excited.
I'm excited too. So this is our Substack Live. I'm Kate from Joyful Creating, and Jen from Author Gold is joining. We'll get a chance to kind of tell you a little bit more about us. And we definitely want to talk all about how we deal with comparison as writers and authors. And clearly, this affects all kinds of creatives. So you'll see at the top that if you want to subscribe to us, there should be a little button that you can click. And yeah, exactly. And there's little hearts down here that you can click. We're very happy to see your comments, and we'll take some questions towards the end. And so I'm Kate from Joyful Creating, and the core message and intention of my Substack is to talk about the creative process, and that you get to do it in a way that keeps you sustained and keeps you lit up and avoids burnout, since we all know that cycle probably. And my intention is that there really, really is a way and a method and an approach that works for you and keeps you healthy. So, Jen, tell us about Author Gold.
Hi, I'm Jen. I am the person behind Author Gold. My Substack is where I write to help other writers and new authors go through that process of publishing and marketing. And we're writers, we're creatives, and sometimes going through that process can be very daunting. I went through it myself. And so I really take on the role of what would I wish I had known when I was first starting out, and what to focus on and what not to focus on. And as a person with a background in research, I really try to bring in sort of more that in-depth research. Like, what does the research actually say about something, as opposed to just what is fancy or hype right now, because there's so much of that on social media. So that's what my stack is all about. And I was so excited to connect with you, Kate, because I think we both really take our readers, our writers, our creatives to heart in what we're doing. So excited to talk to you about this.
Very much. I love it. I love it.
So
So you go ahead.
we're going to talk about comparison and what do we mean by comparison. So we thought we would couch this conversation by saying, okay, what do we mean by this? And what does the research say about this? So this is a real thing that psychology and science says is real. This is not just, oh, I should be a better person, or this is just me and something I need to improve on, and other people don't experience this. This is a real phenomenon. And social comparison can affect us. In some ways, it can inspire us to be like someone we want to be like, but it can also have a lot of negative influence on our writing and the decisions that we make as we go through publishing and marketing. So let's talk about those and how that affects us. So I'm going to start off by asking you, Kate, um, what give us a moment that you've experienced where you got caught in the trap of comparison. What was it like for you?
Yeah, it's so tricky. I find that where it happens the most for me is on social media. And there were a lot, especially as I was launching my fantasy books. There's so much that people share. And what I didn't know in the beginning was I definitely thought that, whatever people share was the whole story.
Mhm.
And it's really not. So, for example, like I would see people share about their launches or share about a big campaign, and often they would maybe share, what looked like the revenue, except maybe it was the revenue, but it wasn't the profit. So like there were definitely people who were doing big launches, but they were spending more on doing the launch than they were on then what they ended up making from that launch. And so but what I found is because I was only seeing one part of the story, it churned up so much it just churned up self-doubt. It churned up like all the feelings that come with, oh my gosh, how is it that this person seems to have figured this out overnight and knows what to do and knows how to launch and all the things. And so we'll talk more about like, kind of our antidotes for that. But I definitely found that there was one of the biggest things that I have learned in this process is don't take everything at face value. So,
That is so important, especially when you are looking at social media posts. You are seeing a teeny tiny sliver of the iceberg and also the winning positive part of that iceberg.
exactly,
You're very
exactly.
rarely getting the full story and all the work that went behind it. Or, like you were saying, you see these big sort of book sales, but you're not really seeing the revenue side of it. So, what does that really mean? And I had a similar experience. So, my first debut children's book, I was obsessed with my sales numbers. I had never gone through the publishing process before, so I was naive to what the marketing looked like. I hadn't built a fan base yet for
Yeah.
children's books, beyond my existing, like, friends and family who were all rushing to buy it for me, but in essence, I had no benchmarks of my own. And so when we deal with social comparison, what I've learned is that you're really comparing yourself to others because sometimes there's the absence of your own objective
Mm,
benchmark to compare against yourself. And that's kind of what I struggled with. So I didn't have my own milestones to think about. I didn't know what is a successful book launch look like for me as a debut author with no fan base and thousands of followers already at hand. What would a success look like? So I was obsessed with watching sales come in. How could I get more? I saw other authors posting their sales and I'm like, am I doing better than them or not as good as them? And then I would just compare instantly. And then I I went into overdrive. I was plastering by my book. I was looking at paid ads. I was like, "How can I match these numbers? They must be doing something that I'm not doing. And what could it be?" And I was trying to solve that puzzle, but I had none of the experience or knowledge in terms of what to focus on or like how a marketing funnel would work. I hadn't learned any of that yet. So it really took up so much of my energy and money. It was definitely not effective, right? And it was taking kind of the joy away a little bit,
mm,
from the real success, which was I had launched a children's book that people were loving. People do love it, by the
yeah.
way. It's the best book ever, and it's on Amazon. And it's inspired by my daughter, and she's my biggest fan. That's a win. It was a win,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. Oh my
And
gosh,
so
right? Yeah.
now I can step back and see it for what it is, but I couldn't at the beginning,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I love that. And so um we'll unpack this some more. But so why do you think it's comparisons especially hard for creatives, for writers and creatives and yeah.
Oh, so I think that's tough because I think it's very individual, and creatives are definitely not a one size fits all. So it's gonna be individual, but my feeling is that for creatives like us, writers, or other types of creators, our self-identity and our creative output, like what the product is, whether it's a book or
Mm,
art, it's so intertwined with our own identity. So I don't think it's a very far stretch to attribute, like, the success of our product, the success of a book, it means something to our own self-worth, like making that connection. And I think maybe that's, at least for many of us, kind of maybe why we struggle. I don't know. What do you think?
I do actually. I think that's like I know as a sensitive creative myself, it's like it's so tricky to separate those things. And so much of what I've created is really personal. Like even though, they're fantasy novels, like they meant so much. And I think sometimes we're launching really close to having finished it too. So there isn't even like that buffer time where I find the more that I have a little bit of buffer time, then I detach more from the product. And I do love that there's more and more creatives kind of talking about that, where there's you can give it time to transition yourself in a way where you can recognize, okay, I was really, really intensely um, intertwined with this while I was creating it. And now I'm going to take some time to realize that once it goes out in the world, it's not like it's in the hands of others now, like that sort of perception of,
Mhm.
okay, they're going to have their own response to this. And it doesn't actually, like you said, I think in the beginning, I didn't realize that I needed to have some separation between the product and how others would respond to it and not take that on to mean anything about me or my talent. Like I love now that there's a lot of authors who basically share that they're super excited when they get a lot of one-star reviews. I can't say that I'm one of those people, but but they see it as people are reading it and traction and all the things. And like now that we know all that we know about algorithms, it's like, well, it means there's eyeballs happening and that sort of thing. But yeah, so I think like you said, just like you said about the process of being new at at anything, I think we learn so much about um what works for us as we go. And when we're first doing something, it like you're brand new and you're kind of a baby bird at it. So it's gonna be a lot more sensitive. So yeah. So which leads us greatly, which leads us really well to the third question. So when or how were you able to shift away from comparison and come back to yourself and come back to your approach and your creativity?
Because that's getting at the crux of it, right? Like, comparison is inevitable. How we're gonna deal with it and how we don't fall into its trap. That's the tricky part. So for me, it happened when I number 1, it like we were talking about, there is experience and
Yeah.
realizing, okay, I'm starting to understand the process better, understand how social media gives you this very tiny picture. Often, it's a fake picture in
Mhm.
some cases. And then I started investing my time into learning the process. So I learned marketing, I learned the business. And then the more I did it, the more I was able to set my own objective goals, my own milestones for what does success look like for me based on the time and resources I can put into it, not based on what someone else can do. So I'm a mom, I'm a solo mom, and I have 2 little kids and a career and, how much can I really put into it? And
Mm.
having a plan and a strategy and then my own metrics for what success looked like for me. Like, that really helped me to stay focused when I saw other metrics. Like, nope, those aren't my metrics, right? Come
Yeah.
so that helps. I'm a planner, so plans help me keep focused. Um, and then I also wanna mention, I think having pauses in the process.
Mm.
So reflecting helps.
Yeah.
So you're in this churn and you're talking a little bit about it sort of, especially with self-publishing, right? You push publish and boom, your book's out there, right?
Yeah.
There's no pause there. You're just kind of going. So finding ways in your strategy, in your launch plan, like where and when do you need to take a moment and reflect? Like at what milestone or at what point would you say, okay, I'm going to publish and then 1 month in, I'll stop and reflect? Or at X number of sales, I'll stop and reflect. Or if I see this issue, then I will stop, right? So that
Mm.
gives you sort of a guidepost so that you're not constantly being reactive to everything you're seeing others posting like, oh, should I do that too? It's like, no, you have a plan and no, you have a time point for when you're going to take some reflection and take a breath and then reflect on the data that you've collected. I think that's for me a really helpful strategy in terms of staying kind of on course. So I
Yeah.
think much more intentional. So do you have a strategy that's the same or different? What does yours look like?
Yeah. I definitely have the decide what success looks like to you strategy big time. That was a really important move for me, and especially as someone who too has like I have lots of things going on in my life and lots of people that I like boards that I contribute to, and so and like most of us, right, we have multiple things, and so I think really defining what success looks like and feels like you is really important. And then the other thing, and Substack is amazing for this, that I really started doing was I started like um, you know, I started digging. I started actually getting to know a lot of other entrepreneurs, a lot of other creative entrepreneurs, a lot of other writers, and asking a lot of questions. And especially following people who are very transparent and who have that as a core value. So I started really seeking out the entrepreneurs who had transparency as a core value in what they do. And so because they'll share, and there are some whether you're self-published or trad published, I absolutely love the folks who are willing to share their numbers, like Amy McNee and lots of other people on Substack as well. They will, so they started also debunking. There's a lot of folks who started debunking the numbers that you see in trad publishing and what they actually mean and what an author actually receives and when that happens. So I started really, really digging and looking and asking and then going, oh, okay. And basically dispelling a lot of the myths that are out there about what those numbers mean and who gets paid what and what is that. And then I came all the way back to that reflection piece of, and what matters to me? Like, why am I doing this? What really matters? And the especially in the latter books, I started recognizing how much it mattered to me that I could see and feel the impact. And I find, again, Substack is amazing for that, where people genuinely tell you, oh my gosh, I read your book and it changed my life, or this particular piece about it. And that was huge for me because an Amazon review is one thing, which, trust me, I love it. I will take all the Amazon reviews. But at the same time, like really knowing the people behind things and the genuine conversations that happen on this platform, I think that keeps you going. And again, it feels like we're in it together instead of being like there's this tiny little slice of the pie and we're all fighting for it. So
Yeah,
that was a big one.
I so think that is so key as well, having real human conversations with other creators, because that's when you get the real story. Those who are willing to share their experiences. Like you and I are talking right now, like we are real people who have gone through processes and trials and tribulations, and we succeeded in some cases, we've fallen to
Yeah,
comparison others.
totally.
We talk, and I have noticed something since I've joined Substack. I'm new to Substack, not new to this, but new to the Substack platform. And one of the reasons I love this so much is that it does um, help with the collaboration aspect and getting to
Mhm,
other creators and having those real conversations to kind of help keep me on track and not too far down the comparison pitfalls. And this idea of supporting each other, I think,
mhm,
cannot be underestimated. The more you support your fellow creative, the more will come back to you. It's like magic. And I see it and I'm experiencing it over and over again. So, for those of you that are on the call, I definitely advise you, like, give it a try. Um,
yeah.
do something supportive for the sake of being supportive and help a fellow creative out and then see what happens. And then write about that journey, because I think you will find that really good things happen
Yeah,
if you do that.
I totally agree. And that really dives towards how can we celebrate others' wins without it triggering comparison?
Right. You mentioned a pie. Um,
Yes.
so the way I think when I started, I thought of the pie as like this static circle, right? And you get a piece of the pie. But really, everyone has their own pie. Like there's plenty of pie. Like, just because someone else has a lot of sales is not gonna reduce your ability to make sales. If anything, you can support each other, and then you both elevate, right? So,
Yeah.
there is no limitation, in terms
Yeah.
of one person's success versus the other, and I think that really helps me too, to have that mindset and have that supportive sort of, "We're all in this together." mentality.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. Yes, exactly. And I think the more that we have these conversations, I love that you brought that up. The fact that we're having this conversation and all of you wonderful, wonderful folks watching, and please feel free to write a message or a question in the comments. Um, the more I find that the more that we do this, the more it completely dispels the separation myth. That and even if we both write like magical fantasy that has a romance and whatever, even if we dialed way down and found, oh my gosh, we're in the same tiny, tiny little sub niche, those are voracious readers. Why would they not want to read more than one book? So, why would we need to own the niche? Like, it's so false. The separation between and the pitting us against each other
Yeah.
is so it's so imaginary
I don't
because
believe we're
really,
in competition at all. I think
right?
we have collaborators, and, the more you share a niche, like, the more you should reach out and collaborate and help each other, and,
Yeah.
you have to find those authors and those writers, but they are out there, and they want, to be supportive, and it is wonderful when that happens.
It really is. And I think it just feels because I mean, one thing I love to talk about is that, it's a very, it can be, it doesn't have to be, a very lonely or isolating endeavor, especially as a writer or an author. And it doesn't have to be. Like you can actually find folks to hang out with, whether it's in this wonderful corner of the internet or I'm shocked how many where I live, which is not in a major city anymore, how many fantasy authors there are within like probably about 20 kilometers of me. Like it's really hilarious, like how I could find people that I could actually do something, in real life with. So you're right. Like and there are so many amazing people on Substack who want to know you and collaborate with you and cheer you on. And I kind of feel like, I don't know about you, Jen, but I feel like I'm almost, um, it's like an antidote to what we all got told in school or as, especially in like the film business and things like that. I just found there was a false narrative that we were pitted against each other. And I feel like Substack is dispelling that narrative and is really teaching us, no, no, you do it. If you do it together, you will grow faster. Like you
Absolutely.
will definitely grow faster.
100%. I come from a science background, and all the scientists are very competitive with each other. So, it's definitely dispelling the myths for me, Substack, and also the more I do it, the more I want to. It feels good, if comparison is
Yeah.
the thief of joy, then collaboration and supportiveness is the bringer of more joy. Um,
Yes.
d
Leah said, a rising tide lifts all ships.
Yay,
Yes.
I love that.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes, and speaking of
Yeah.
questions and collaborations and discussions, are there any questions from the chat or any comments that we wanna share? I don't know if you
Please chime in if you like, or just give us some hearts and yeah. Or if there was anything that kind of spoke to you in what we shared, that would be amazing. I think while we wait, if people are typing, we were chatting a little bit about like a practice that helps us come back to. And I know for me, a big one is like you talked about, Jen, is to pause and also actually to go out and do something that's gives me joy but isn't necessarily related to my book selling well. So like going out and chatting with friends out in a coffee shop or having conversations with artists out there in the world or going and doing something that inspires me. So I remember that I have a very big and full life, and it doesn't all hinge on my daily sales on Amazon. And there are like just basically, I think when I get a little bit of that distance and detachment, I come back to remembering why this matters to me and why I'm doing it and what's at the heart of it for me and what I get out of it rather than getting caught up in that reactive, you know, um, anxiety that can happen if I'm looking at something online.
Yes.
So I don't,
Yeah.
yeah.
When I get
But
anxious about numbers, I definitely have to actively talk to myself, right? And I say, "Jen, put the phone down, put the tablet down, right? Close out the window." And I'm lucky because I have little kids, and my kids kind of will tell me without filters, right? So and they are my number one fans. So I can sometimes I'll go to my daughter and I'll say, "What do you think about your book?" And she's like, "It's the best book. It's so great. I" and and then I'm like, "Ah, that's why I wrote that book." Right?
yeah,
It wasn't for numbers, it wasn't for sales. No, that's why I did it. And so those are those little pieces like what else I have in my life that is joyful? What else is like what how do I really measure my success and like reminding me myself of that can really
yeah.
help turn the tide when I go down the rabbit hole.
The rabbit hole. I love that. Another related to that, since you have the like in real life best version, one thing that I start doing too is I started like when people share a text or a review or something, a nice comment on Substack, I've started screenshotting it. And you can kind of collect those. So if you're having a day where suddenly, because you know that inner critic will, or the comparison monster will show up, and then you can kind of like what I'll do is I'll go and read some of those and be like, right, that's
I
what I'm doing. That's what I'm up to. Yeah.
You brought that up, and it's so funny because literally last night I was on Illustrator and I was creating like some bubble text, and I am going to be moving some of my review feedback, just like blurbs, not the whole review, but those little
Yeah.
blurbs for my books. Like I want to kind of create a little sheet, and it's just kind of like
Oh,
people are saying, and just to remind myself, like in like a little or you can also do a word cloud. That's another great
oh yeah.
that if you need the visual reminder, there's little things we can do to sort of help celebrate ourselves and celebrate our wins.
Yes, I love it. Leah was chiming in as well. The positive feedback folder. I love it. Yes,
Yes,
it's so
file file.
helpful because I'm sure Jen can say our brains will like attach to, you know, the negative. So redirecting it back to the positive and remembering it's like why do I forget this? But we all do. So it's such a good. I love what you described. I might have to create my own like little bubbles like to I love that. That's so good. Well, we're not getting any questions, but oh, wait. Sorry, my bad. When you're getting ready to complete and publish your book, what external author based services are most critical for you? Okay. Yeah.
A good one. All right. So, external author based services. So, I'm going to say I have completed a manuscript. And if it's a children's book, because I do children's books, then I also have an illustrated piece. So, I always go with an editor. I have, if you're going to be writing like a longer novel, a developmental editor can be really, really, really helpful.
Mhm.
And then the other would be sort of like the line editor. So editing is just such an important component. They are looking at it from an experience and an objective lens that no matter how many times you read your own manuscript, you will miss things. Um, and they're coming at it from another perspective than the author perspective. They're coming at it from a much different lens, and that is so key. So
Mhm.
definitely that's most critical in terms of like an external author based service. I would say if you're looking at self publishing, because the question makes me think that
Mhm.
self publish. So then I would say steer away from anything that calls themselves a press that offers marketing
Mhm.
plans and payments up front. So please stay away from those. I really do not think I've ever heard of anyone who's had a lot of success from
Mhm.
um because of the business model that these presses have when they're hybrid or vanity press. So you're kind of paying them. Um, so there's a lot you can do by yourself. And if
Mhm.
you need a service to help you, say, work through KDP formatting or something like that, then hire a service and someone with references that can be checked. And you know that that's what they do and they're good at it and they're legit and they will help you through that process. So
Yeah.
I'll turn it to you, Kate.
Yeah, and then I think after this question, we might, wrap up for the live, but yeah, I would definitely say, like Jen was saying, editors are gold, they're invaluable. Cover design, especially for, like, the books that well, any they're basically what, any marketer will tell you is kinda like the movie poster for your book, like, they're so essential, so a really good cover designer. You don't have to spend thousands of dollars, I definitely, there's varying ones, but I would say I completely agree with Jen where it's like, don't do well, my approach is don't do an all-in-one where somebody's going to, in theory, be your editor, your cover designer, your marketer, like, all your publisher. Honestly, if you can separate them and choose carefully, another wonderful person that you can follow on YouTube, but he also has great tools for self-published folks, is Dave Chesson from Kindlepreneur, and he has a tool called Publisher Rocket. So that's really, really essential to get to know your niche because you really, really need to understand how Amazon works and it's constantly changing. So he's a great source of what's happening, what's changed, what's current. And he can point you towards people who are experts at individual pieces of the puzzle. Because, like Jen was saying, it's each part of the journey, especially post, you've completed your manuscript. Each part is a special piece that one person is not probably going to be good at all of those by any stretch. So, yeah, the production of your book versus the promotion of your book, very different things. So, for sure. But yeah, you're very welcome, Leah. Thank you for. I'm on a bit of a time crunch today, so I'm going to just ask Jen to maybe share anything that she needs to share, and then I'll do the same, and then we'll say goodbye.
Just
So yeah,
those of you that have been listening, just a reminder that in the top corner, you can click on that and subscribe to Author Gold and to Kate at Joyful Creating for more about what we do and how we support our writers on Substack and beyond. So check us out. And thank you so much. And thanks, Kate. This was a really great conversation, and I
yeah.
getting like deep dive and all. It was great.
I loved it too. This was like we touched on so many things. I'm so delighted that, and like Jen was said, up in the corner, there's you can subscribe. We would love that, especially because we're both very much about supporting other writers and other authors, sharing, as Jen is, lots of gold about the journey. And it's a joyful creating is about sharing that gold so that you can also have a very long and happy creating journey because I think it's a huge source of delight for all of us and a huge source of our own what we want to put out in the world. And so we're here to support you in that. And thank you to everybody who showed up. We're so delighted. I'm sure there will be some clips coming afterwards, and this has been really fantastic. It's been a great conversation. So
Wonderful. Bye, everyone.
ciao,
Bye.
bye, bye.